The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I have a fantastic episode for us this week. It's a very special college football playoff roundtable. I have a plethora of guests coming on. I will let them introduce themselves here in a minute. I will just be moderating. Yes, I know for the usual listeners, you won't get to hear me talking as much, but these guys have a lot to say, and I think it needs to be said. Also, remember, peep all of the new sponsors. That is Reaper Apparel, Core Health Benefits, and as always, my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. All right, that being said, like I said, college football preview playoff show. We're going to introduce the panel here. We're going to start with everybody's favorite, the wonderful manager of the podcast, Johnny Fiddy Falconi.
Hi, everybody. John Falconi. I am a fan of Hawaii football. As you can see right here, I work for Notre Dame College as the assistant dean of admissions, and I am a retired coach after 12 seasons. Thanks for having me be on, Bono.
No problem, cuz. All right, we're going to get going with Drew Barth next.
Thanks, Bono, and thanks, Fiddy, for letting me come on the show with you guys. Nice to be on it again with you, Bono. I currently work at Purdue University, Associate Director of Development, Fundraising, working in the Alumni Center, so just reaching out, trying to fundraise some money for Purdue. So thanks again, Bono.
Who's your favorite college football team? Is it Purdue since you work there?
I'm going to say, since we're on the podcast, yes.
Okay. All right, bring it over to another Drew. Drew Mclaughlin.
Hey, what's up, guys? Bono, thanks for having me again. John, thanks for having me on. Drew Mclaughlin, currently a teacher at Brookfield Elementary School, and I'm a high school football coach right now, currently a free agent, actually. So we'll see where I go, what happens, but thanks for having me on, and I am a good Ohio State football fan.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we're going to bring it up to my man, Nick Tomba, next.
Hello, all. Bono and Fiddy, thank you for having me on. Again, I am a middle school teacher at Willoughby Middle School. I teach or coach high school football. I'm the defensive coordinator at Willoughby South, and then I own a dry rub seasoning company, very, very small. It's ran by me, my mom, and my fiance, but it is called Coach's Dry Rub, and you can get it at tombaskitchen.com, TOMBAS kitchen.com. And I, too, am a Buckeye fan, baby. Go Bucks!
Oh, man, I'm so sorry. All right, George Gresko, please save us here a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys. And go blue for one. Yeah, go blue. So we're going to have that plug. But no, I'm the quarterbacks coach at Cleveland Heights High School in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. I have my own podcast called the Coaches Approach Podcast. You can find that at thecoachesapproach.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So, yeah, I'm, just a football coach trying to find my way.
All right. And last but not least, Bob Gavalier. Last but not least, Bob Gavalier, you're next.
You're saving the best for last, of course, right? I'm Bob Gavalier. I work at 1390 AM, The Gambler. More of a hobby than a full-time job. I also work for a religious TV station during the day, but do a lot of play-by-play for high school football. Been doing that for about over 20 years now. So it's a joy to do and to get out, and they pay me to go to football games. So it's kind of nice to do that.
No, can't beat that then, right? Getting paid to go and watch some football, right?
Yeah.
All right. And
Bob, who's your favorite college football team?
Actually, I grew up liking the Miami Hurricanes. I grew up when I was Bernie Kosar went there, and he was from Boardman. I thought that was kind of cool back in the 80s or 90s, whenever that was. It's a long time ago. And then it was easy when I was in college. They got big, so it was easy to tout them and to tout the bad boys. But I went to Kent State, so I do follow Kent State, even though their football team is trying to get back. A little disappointing last year. I think they thought they were going to be a little better, but they have a new coach, and we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. And no, Steve, I didn't forget about you. Steve Thompson is on the show.
Well, I was going to say it was a pleasure to be here, but I guess you and I are fighting at this point in time. And Fiddy, thanks for inviting me. Steve Thompson, I'm the director of athletics at OSU University. Plug bwyellowjackets.com. I think is a big thing to plug. And then as far as my favorite college team, this is interesting for me, and Fiddy knows I have some dear friends that are lifelong season ticket holders for the Georgia Bulldogs. And so I'm kind of torn because I'm born and raised an Ohio State fan, but I do have a little bit of dogs in me as well, just from that relationship. So excited for that game. I don't think it's going to be great for the Buckeyes, but excited for that, and just seeing those two teams I follow pretty closely.
All right. That is your panel as always. Yep, I am Mike Bono. I will say this. I am probably the odd man out here. I am a West Virginia Mountaineer fan. They disappoint me every year, but I still am a fan of the Mountaineers. When you're born and raised in West Virginia, they kind of kick you out of the state if you're not a fan of that blue and gold, Mountaineer blue and gold. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get rolling with these questions here. Got 5 questions for you guys dealing with this year's college football playoff. So, Bob, let's start with you. Which is the better game on New Year's Eve? TCU versus Michigan or OSU versus Georgia?
I think it's OSU versus Georgia. I think it's nice. Ohio State usually plays better when they're not favored and they have nothing to lose. And I think that's the key there, is that they really have nothing to lose in this game, even though I think Georgia's a better team. I just see Ohio State hanging around in this game. I think they have something to prove. I think they're upset with the way they lost to Michigan, and that's a dangerous team. I still think it'll come down to, I think the better athletes are on Georgia's side. But I see Ohio State hanging around. I think maybe like 14 points, something like that. I think they lose by. I just think the other game, I think TCU kind of got just backed in. They're like the odd man out. They're really I can't see any other better teams, though, in the other game. That TCU game, I just don't think – I think Michigan's on a mission right now, and I think TCU is just it's going to be a long night for them.
Absolutely. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Bob that Ohio State-Georgia game's the better of the two. I would probably disagree where he says that Ohio State has something to prove. I think they do have something to prove. I just don't think they can prove it against Georgia. I think the level of physicality and essentially what Michigan has done to Ohio State the last 2 years, right, is punched them in the mouth, and Ohio State has no response. This punch is going to be a lot bigger from Georgia. And I've been telling everybody the same as about 14, 17 points, but I don't think it's ever going to feel that close. I think it's just Georgia's going to go about their business and get a couple score victory.
All right, George, the same question for you.
Yeah, I actually think the exact same. I think the more viewed game is definitely going to be Ohio State, Georgia. But, I don't see Ohio State being able to compete with Georgia at all. And then, I think Michigan's just going to blow out TCU, to be honest with you. I think it's not going to be a game at all. So,
okay. Fiddy, what do you got?
I'm actually saying it's Michigan TCU, and here's why. Sonny Dykes and Jim Harbaugh have a lot to prove, and they're going to bring their A game in this, because this means the world to Michigan, because they have that embarrassing loss last year in the playoffs, and TCU has never been here, and they're playing with house money because of every single win, and the closer the score, the better it's going to be for them in recruiting and becoming better. So actually, I think this is the better game overall when you're factoring all that in. Player-wise, Georgia and Ohio State probably has more talent, but what more rides on the line for two programs trying to overtake Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia, are these two teams in this game? So Michigan TCU is my call.
All right, Drew Barth, let's go to you.
I'm going to agree with Fiddy, actually. TCU Michigan, I think, will be the better one, just based off TCU. Obviously, won every game up till the Big 12 championship. They were in every single game, fought back from, I think, 3 or 4 double-digit scores down, especially in the Big 12 championship game. They forced overtime. So, I mean, they're never out of the game. And Michigan, I mean, obviously they have the athletes, dominate Ohio State. And the reason I don't say Georgia, Ohio State is because Georgia, they just elevate to their competition. You saw it against Tennessee in that battle. I mean, they just dominated Tennessee, and I think Tennessee's maybe a little better than Ohio State. Probably nobody here agrees with me on that. But, yeah, Steve is shaking your head over there. Yeah. But, I mean, Georgia just elevates their competition, and, I mean, once that happens, it's game over for the other opponent. So I'm going to have to agree with the Falcon on this one.
Okay, and yes, I saved the Ohio State fans for last on this one. So, Tomba, what do you got?
Hello, yeah. I would kind of agree with the last two. Ohio State and Georgia, I think, is the game that people want to watch. It's the game that's on at prime time at 8. But TCU Michigan is the game that I am really intrigued to watch. I want to see how Harbaugh and Michigan react, like a couple of guys said, to their embarrassing loss in the previous Final Four. And I think TCU is a exciting team that is there for the first time, and Sonny Dykes in his first year in the program, I believe, too. So I am intrigued to watch it and see how Michigan reacts and sees how TCU steps up onto the big stage. So, yeah.
All right, and Drew Mclaughlin.
Yeah, guys, I think this is going to be a great college football playoff. Both games are going to be great. In order, I'm more intrigued. Obviously, me being an Ohio State fan, I'm really excited to watch that game. I think when you look at the talent alone, that's going to be like a pre-NFL, game. You're going to see first-round picks everywhere on that field. In regard, I'm saying this as an Ohio State fan, it's going to be really close. Pulling for the Buckeyes to pull it out, that game. And I think Michigan's going to beat TCU. You're going to see Ohio State, Michigan Part 2. The first time you've ever seen that before. And you're probably going to have millions and millions of people watching that national championship game.
That's interesting. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
I know Nick agrees with me.
All right. So we kind of... All right, you two. That's enough. That's all right. So this one kind of leads into this next question. Who wins each game, and what is your prediction for the score of the game? Johnny, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm going to predict Michigan beats TCU 24-21 in a really close game. And then I'm going to predict Georgia beats Ohio State 31-21. I think the score gets closer at the end. I think Georgia will end up jumping up like 31-7. And then just the guys, Ohio State will score a couple times. So Michigan 24, TCU 21, Georgia 31, Ohio State.
All right. Tomba, let's go to you.
All right. My predictions are, and looking at the spreads and stuff, I would take Ohio State with that 6.5 line or 7 points in some. But I think that Georgia's going to overpower them 31-28. And I think Michigan is going to beat TCU 28-17.
All right, Tomba going with the spread on that one. I like it. Little money line action for everybody. Drew Barth, what do you got?
I think Michigan will beat TCU 28 on the last second field goal. And I think Georgia just overpowers Ohio State, and they win it 31-14.
All right, Drew Mclaughlin.
Yeah, I got Michigan beating TCU probably around like 31-20 type score. I think Michigan's going to put them on them a little bit. And I think Ohio State, it's going to go into overtime, but we're going to see a last second field goal to win the game in overtime. Let's go 34-31 Ohio State.
All right, Bob, let's save us here with that Ohio State fan in there.
Come on.
The Michigan TCU game, I like Michigan 31-10. And then I think Ohio State, I got Georgia going 38-28.
Okay. Steve, what do you got?
And I love the random guessing, right? Like, good luck to see who shows up from some of these teams. But I'll take Georgia over Ohio State 35-24. And then I actually like TCU over Michigan 21-17.
Okay.
Wow.
I
Okay.
can't listen to Michigan people. I'll never pick them, right? If you're a true Ohio State fan, right, you're raised that your two favorite teams are Ohio State and whoever plays Michigan. So go Horned Frogs on this one.
All right. George, what do you got?
Yeah, so I have Georgia over Ohio State 37-24. I think Georgia's going to absolutely roll them early. Ohio State will have to try to come back down late in the game. And then I have Michigan over TCU 31-13. I just don't see TCU competing with Michigan. I just don't see it.
Hey, it's going to be a good slate of games, I think, this year. And I'll say this: I'm happy that there's no Clemson, there's no Alabama, there's it's finally getting down to the playoff that everybody's wanting to see. But with the 4 head coaches that are in the college football playoffs, where would you guys rank them from best to worst? And George, let's stay with you.
I think Harbaugh, I'm a Michigan guy, so I'm going to go Harbaugh number 1. But I think Ryan Day is struggling with recruiting right now. And it's kind of just, if you watch the recruiting battle this past offseason, Alabama dominated again. But I think Ryan Day's kind of losing in recruiting battles to everybody else in the area. And, yeah, that's kind of my top 2 coaches. And I'll be honest, I don't even know who TCU's head coach is right now. I'm not even going to lie to you. And then number 3 is, of course, Georgia's guy. So, yeah.
All right. George, that was possibly the best answer. I know it was the first answer, but that's possibly the best answer off the rip.
I'm going to be truthful, man. I ain't going to lie.
I appreciate it. Bob, let's go to you.
And I got to go with
See what's happening right now. Everyone's Googling who these other coaches are. I see what's going on.
I like the Georgia guy, and you know what? I'm the same way. But his name, I can see his face.
Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart. And I remember, and I got to go Smart, Harbaugh, Day, and then I agree too. The TCU guy, whoever he is.
TCU guy.
Sonny Dykes, man. Sonny Dykes. SMU.
I was going to say, let me bring it over to my wealth of knowledge. Johnny, save us with the names here.
Ask me high school coaches. I know tons of high school coaches.
So I'm going to go reverse order. I'm going to go Harbaugh at 4 because Harbaugh still does not have a big game victory in a poll. I'm going to go 3 Ryan Day. I'm going to go 2 Kirby Smart. I'm going to go 1 Sonny Dykes, and here's why. Sonny Dykes took over a program from Gary Patterson when Gary Patterson was fired in the middle of the season at TCU, close to 20 years there. He came from SMU. In 1 year, he has them in the in the Final Four coming out of the Big 12 and played a lot harder competition than Michigan's schedule and Ohio State's schedule. And Kirby Smart should be there, right? He should be there because they have the most access to recruiting, the best, facilities, things like that. What Sonny Dykes did to turn a TCU program that fired Gary Patterson and had a losing season last year into a Big 12 runner-up and a Final Four in the playoffs puts him as the best coach out of those four coaches, I would say.
All right, reverse order. At least we had all the names in there, though, this time. All right, so now that you guys know all the names, Steve, what do we got?
Yeah, I'm going to go Kirby Smart as the top coach there. He's got a lot of facilities and all those benefits, but they won it last year, and I think until somebody knocks them off, and their ability to how they went through the SEC schedule says a lot. Nobody's playing a tougher schedule than Georgia week in and week out. Sonny Dykes, I agree with Fiddy. What they did at TCU this year is just outstanding. Ohio State guy, I'm still going to say Harbaugh because he's absolutely punched Ohio State in the mouth the last 2 years. And Ryan Day, unfortunately, he may have been born on third base. And we're starting to kind of see that in some big games that not getting it done. And I feel bad. I know you probably want to fight me now, and we haven't really met in person, but until he wins a game like that, it's hard to put him in front of Harbaugh as much as I could care less about Harbaugh. And then somewhere down at the bottom of those coaches, I'd put the Purdue coach and Illinois head coach. I don't even know those guys, but I got to take my shot at Barth on the podcast at some point. So they don't know football in Illinois and Indiana. So there you go.
Okay.
Brett Bielema is the Illinois coach, the former Wisconsin coach.
He might be their basketball coach too, because Underwood, the savior of Illinois basketball, is not getting it done either.
All right, Barth, let's give you a chance to redeem yourself here. What do we got?
Wow, Steve, just coming at me like that. But I think Kirby Smart is number one. I mean, what he's done the past couple of years, and obviously has all the recruiting tools, but he's still able to do it. I mean, you see what Alabama's done. They didn't get in this year, and Kirby continued his streak. I'm torn between 2 and 3. I think I'd put Harbaugh at 2. Just what he's been able to do with Michigan, all the backlash he was taking. And there was a time, I believe, that everybody wanted him fired, 2 years ago? Because he couldn't beat Ohio State. And now look what he's done, able to turn it around. So I'd say 2A, Harbaugh, 2B, Sonny Dykes, what he's able to turn around with TCU. I mean, it was incredible what they did in the Big 12 this year. I mean, it was just, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it was incredible. And then Ryan Day, I mean, I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'd put him at probably 365. However many Division I teams there are. So we're just going to go with that. There you go, Steve.
I love the shots. All right. The other Drew here, Mclaughlin, what do you got?
Yeah, I love the shots, Connor. I'd probably go number 1, Kirby Smart. What he's been doing at Georgia. He has the tools to do it, but he's winning games, so you can't deny that. Number 2, Sonny Dykes. Like we said, taking over a program, a school that's not really a top dog in the Big 12, and he just wins the Big 12 and getting the 3 seed in the college football playoff. It's pretty remarkable. Then I go Ryan Day 3, which I know as an Ohio State fan, his recruiting, like I think was it George or someone said the recruiting is not up to par. I'm a Youngstown guy. You're seeing some Youngstown kids in this area go to Michigan instead of Ohio State, and you don't see that too often, but it's starting to happen now, which is a shot to Ryan Day. He has to recruit his state before they go up there. Then Jim Harbaugh 4. He didn't win a playoff football game yet. We'll see what happens this year, but that'll be my rankings.
All right, Tomba, bring us home.
All right, number 1, I'm going to go with Kirby Smart. Until someone knocks off the king right now, I think he's the hot guy and been there before. Georgia's Georgia, so he does have all the facilities and the recruiting tools, but until someone beats him, I'm keeping him at 1. And Sonny Dykes, I'm going with 2. Just impressed with what Fiddy said with him taking over TCU and getting to the Final Four. Number 3, going with Harbaugh, just because kind of like what a few guys said, that Michigan has been under some heat with him. He had a rough first few years there, and I'm impressed that he's been able to get to the point where he's at now. And Ryan Day, I'm putting him down there at 4 just because he lost to Michigan, and as an Ohio State fan, not too thrilled about that.
All right, I get it, but I am surprised the Ohio State's guys putting Day where they are, but at the same time, I'm not, because he's 4 on my list too as well. So let's keep this rolling here. And this one, I can't wait to hear the answers on this one from a bunch of you. What is your national championship pick, and what's the score? Nick, let's stay with you.
Okay, I am going to go with Georgia over Michigan, and the score is going to be 38-28.
All right, Barth, let's go with you.
Yeah, I get Georgia over Michigan as well. I think Georgia's going to overpower them and win another national championship. I got them at 14.
All right, Mclaughlin, what do you got?
Well, I think Ohio State to beat Georgia, so we have Ohio State-Michigan rematch. Hopefully this fight, Ryan Day's probably coaching for a job here. We'll see what happens, but it's true I am Ohio State-Michigan beats Ohio State because they just overpower them again. So let's go 28-24 Michigan.
Okay, I was going to say, Drew, I'll mute you so fast. Bob, what do you got?
I got Georgia over Michigan. I think it's both two very good defenses, so I got 21-10. It'll be a low-scoring game.
Okay. Steve, what do you got?
As I mentioned earlier, I was taking TCU over Michigan. So in the championship game, I'll take Georgia over TCU. I don't think it's going to be close, but I'd probably say 27-10, Georgia over TCU.
27-10. George, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stay realistic. I don't think anybody's beating Georgia, even though I am a Michigan fan. I just don't see anybody beating Georgia. I think they're just overpowering just about everybody that they play right now. And, yeah, I think it's going to be 24. Let's go 24-17.
24-17. Falcons, send us home.
I picked Georgia and Michigan to go here. I'm gonna say it's a close game. The one thing about Jim Harbaugh, he was a very scrappy player, and he is a scrappy coach. I will say that guys play hard. For him, and guys played hard for him when he was a quarterback. I'm gonna say Georgia's gonna win this game 38-31, but I'm gonna say Michigan's knocking on the door at the end, and Georgia comes up with a stand inside the 20. So Georgia by 7.
All right, a mixed bag of results other than Drew Mclaughlin down there, the Ohio. It's just, he's got the banner in the background. He's in his little rocking chair there, just all relaxed. It's Ohio State, everything.
Hey, man, got to rock with it.
All right, so you know what? We'll go with you for the first one of this one because I already know what your answer is going to be, and I feel like it. I haven't even asked the question yet. Question number 5. Which one team is most likely to make it back to the college football playoff next season out of the 4? Drew Mclaughlin.
Well, actually, you're going to be surprised what I say because I think, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on with Ohio State right now that haven't been going on for a while. I just think Georgia's just a power juggernaut right now. There's kind of no stop for them. The recruiting battle, they're winning that too. So I think Georgia's going to be a lock there for a while, especially with it expanding in 2024 when you go to 12 teams. I don't see any of these teams really missing the playoffs too much when it comes to 2024.
Okay, thank you so much for
hey,
that.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the show, Drew. Welcome to the
hey, listen. Maybe Hawaii can get a sneak in there these next few years, huh?
Go Bows! Go Bows!
All right, Johnny, since he took a shot at you, what do you got?
Yeah, when you look at all 4 teams, the Big 12 is really good. It's going to be hard for TCU to battle back out of that, though, especially with, UCF and Cincinnati and those schools going into the Big 12. So TCU's out. Georgia got to fight year in and year out with Alabama, so I'm not going to count in Georgia in there. Michigan is going to have to win a playoff game to actually get in. So surprisingly, for as much as I don't like Ohio State, I'm going to pick Ohio State, and here's why. They bring the money, they bring the fans, and they play literally the worst schedule of football in entire America. So the Mountain West is more competitive than the teams that Ohio State plays. So Ohio State will win 12 games easy next year.
Just because the league's competitive doesn't mean like it's better football. The MAC's a competitive league, but they ain't showing up in Columbus and beating Ohio State.
Well, right. So
the state that Illinois sucks, Purdue sucks. Are you allowed to say suck on this, Bono? I mean, that's not Ohio State's fault.
no, it's not. But if they're naturally going to get 12 wins just because they play a bad schedule, even of non-league games. So I'm going to go with Ohio State because of the money, the name recognition, and they're the guaranteed 12-win team.
I had a feeling this was going to go off the rails here in a minute. I was just waiting for it. Yay. Bob, what do you got?
It's a tough one. I would have to say I think it's going to be Michigan, I think, coming back. I think, like I said, TCU, I think they're going to lose a lot of guys from this team. I think Ohio State's, losing their quarterback, so they're going to find a quarterback. Michigan has a lot of guys coming back, and I think Georgia, I would say Georgia, but I think the SEC is so competitive and they have a lot of talent. It's always hard to get back. So I would have to roll out with Michigan. I just think, unfortunately, the Big Ten is so bad that, like I said, that's another thing that I know that they can't do anything about it, but it's just Michigan, Ohio State right now, and the rest is just trying to compete. And I think Ohio State's going to be down a little bit, losing their quarterback.
Okay. Steve, what do you got?
I think this year's a rare year where two Big Tens are getting in the playoff. I think normally you're going to see two SEC teams. That's why I would lean to Georgia as they're returning national champs. They're going to reload again. But in the normal year, you're going to see two SEC teams. So even if they beat up each other a little bit, the likelihood of them getting back in, I just would give the nod to them over Ohio State or Michigan. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Tomba, who do you got?
Okay. I'm going with Ohio State with the best odds to get back in. I think Georgia being in the SEC, I think that Bama is going to fight them back, and I can see them pushing them out next season. Then the third likely would be Michigan, and then the fourth would be TCU.
Okay. Barth, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Georgia. I mean, Alabama's losing quite a bit, so obviously SEC is still going to be a juggernaut, but Alabama, I think it's going to struggle again next year. I don't know if you'll see them get in necessarily. And, I mean, I'd put Georgia just over all the others pretty easily.
Okay. And George, who do you got?
Man, you guys are all out of your minds. Michigan has taken back the Big Ten, guys. They're taking it back. So
Oh, really?
Oh,
My God.
All right, so we had one homer in these questions, I guess. I mean, I understand Tom was an Ohio State fan, but he made a pretty good argument. The fight song did it for me, George. That's all right, I got time for a couple of bonus questions here. So, Mclaughlin, we're going to go with you because you kind of mentioned it. What is your opinion on the 12-team playoff?
It's kind of like, I don't know. You bring it to like the high school realm of things. I think 12's too much. I think 12's too much. I think you go 8, you get the 5 power conferences and the 3 at-large bids. I think that's perfect. And then you go 12. I just think you're pushing that 10, 11. Like who's 10 and 11 right now? Who's 12 right now? Do they deserve to be in a college football playoff? Probably not. We don't even know who it is. But you get to 8, you're pushing like USC, those type of schools. Okay, I can see them competing, but I think 10, 11, 12 is a little bit too much. So I wish it was 8 with the 5 conference winners and the 3 at-large bids.
All right, Fiddy, who do you got? Or what's your opinion?
I would say 12 is too much. I would go 10. I would do the 5 Power 5 champions and the 5 group of 5s and go with 10. That's what I would do. So I would say 10 is enough.
Okay, Bob, what do you got?
I think 8's a perfect fit, I think, but it's as far as scheduling, I think it's a little harder. I think that's why they did the 12. It's a little bit easier to schedule the games and stuff like that, where the 8's a little, do you give people buys and stuff like that for the 8? But I think 8 would be enough with I agree that the top 5 conferences, a couple of at-large bids to sneak in. And then, but I think 12, like I said, you're doing the high school thing where you're watering it down a little bit, where the first couple games, you might have some blowouts and not very close games.
Okay, Tomba, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much all of the guys so far. I think that 12 is too much. I think that the 12 versus the 1, the 11 versus the 2, those games are going to be terrible. I think 4 is not enough. I think that there's probably teams that can compete that are not in the Final Four right now. So I think we just got to find some happy medium between like a 8 and a 10 team playoff, somewhere between there.
Okay, Steve, what do you got? What's your opinion?
It's interesting, right? Drew, I looked it up. It's the Washington Huskies are the seventh team in the country right now. And to think they're stepping onto the field against a Georgia or a Michigan or Ohio State is somewhat comical, as they lost a nail biter to the powerhouse Arizona State this year, 38-45. So I like to see them, playing in the Alamo Bowl or something against Georgia. Would be really entertaining football to like the 10 Washington Husky fans that would follow that game.
Georgia puts a clock on them, 35 plus.
They're going to set that high school rule where when you're up 35 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just runs.
Put the clock on them. Just put the clock on it.
But I think that's just as a society where we're going. I'm just going to completely get off the rails that people are seeing money, and that's what's driving this. And here we are. Just there's more money in these bowl games and stuff that they can put a playoff around it. The games will. I mean, you're not. It's going to be a 16 versus the 1 seed. I think in the NCAA basketball tournament is when you're going to see the 12 seed versus the 1 or whatever it's made. I know it's not that, but. There's going to be some ugly bowl games.
Okay, Barth, what do you got?
I actually like the 12-team playoff. Shout out to my high school team last night. They were 15th seed in their tournament, beat the 2 seed. So, I love seeing those upsets. So I'm not saying the 12 would beat a 1, but you could see maybe 11 beat a 2 or something. So, I love especially with they're hosting home games now for the playoffs, that first round, I believe, if I read that right. So to see that's kind of unique and nothing we've obviously never seen before. So I honestly like the 12-team playoff.
Okay.
Bono, go ahead, Steve.
He also likes the 12-team playoff because it's literally the only chance Purdue or the University of Illinois should get into a playoff. There's that. Maybe we let 64 teams in so Illinois can get in next year.
Here's what I would say. And we've all been around high school and college sports on tournaments. And I would say to Steve, as a Division III athletic director, and he's seen tournaments happen. When you start getting into these games, though, and if you say a 16 is, I don't know, whoever it may be, and you're playing a 1, if you're seeing Division III teams blow teams out by 50 and 60 points, what do you think a really, really good Division I team is going to do to somebody? They're going to 60 point them and probably hurt people. And then you do get a watered down product, because just think about the 30, 32 or whatever it may be, teams that go into Division III or Division II playoffs or whatever it is, 24. And those teams get crushed, and they're on way more equal footing than Division I teams. How could you give somebody like Coastal Carolina, who has a really great season at 12-2, and make them go play like Georgia? That is it's so unfair. And then you just you kill Coastal Carolina's season. So, I just want to jump in and say that, too. If you see bad football in D2 and D3 playoffs, you're going to see really bad football in D1 playoffs.
Well, the other side of the coin now, too, is we all remember way back when Boise State beat Oklahoma, that upset, too. You might see schools like that. So it's like it goes back and forth.
All right,
you could, but to sustain that and win 3 or 4 games – it's going to be really, really hard for teams that are not, the 4 teams in.
Absolutely.
All right, we haven't heard from George yet. Let's let George get his opinion here on this, guys. We'll get into this debate here in a minute. So, George, what's your opinion on this?
Oh, sorry, I still have this playing over. I have a couple of reasons why I love the 12-team playoff. If you walk down to my local middle school, there's a playoff. There's a playoff system. If you go down to the youth league level, there's a playoff system. Division II playoff system. Division III playoff system. And now that it gives you no excuse to not make the playoffs. There's no decision of, oh, I'm number 5. Should I be in? There's no discussion on that. So that's why I love the 12 team. And it gives you that opportunity to see some games that have never really been played between, different conferences. So I like it. I like seeing those upsets as well. So I'm a big fan of the 12 teams.
Okay. Here in a mixed bag, I think 12 is too much. I'm with most of you, and 12 is too much. I like an 8-team playoff. I've said this since the college football playoff was created. You have the 5 Power 5 conferences. All the conference champions get in automatic bid. That's just my opinion on that. And you have 3 at-large bids. An undefeated MAC or a WAC team or something, or even Purdue gets in. Just to throw some shots there while I can. Or, hey, you know what? I'll even throw a shot at myself. Maybe my Mountaineers sneak in. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I think 12 is way too much. 10, I don't know about 10, but I think 8 is the magic number for everything on that one. Now, I cannot wait to ask this question. And we're gonna start with my 2 Ohio State fans here. If OSU and Michigan play for the national title, will it be a better game than the first matchup? Drew, let's start with you.
Well, I sure as hell hope so. You look at the past 2 years of what Michigan did Ohio State. It was like, one foot split and just maul you, and that's what they did to them. So Ohio State needs a counterpunch to that. I don't know if they have the dudes to do it. I hope they do. They need a better game plan, better everything. So we'll see what happens. I think it being a national championship, I think it makes the stakes even higher. I think I'll say it too. I think Ryan Day is coaching for. It's crazy to say his job because he's wins 12 games every year, but to Ohio State standards, he might be coaching for his job here. So we'll see what happens. I think he'll be a lot closer, but I just think Michigan's a little bit too much stronger right now.
All right, Tomba, what do you think about that? If it's Michigan OSU national championship,
I absolutely think it would be a better game. I think it's hard to beat the same team twice. I think that Ryan Day would put together a much better game plan. I think that the guys would come out hungry and play with that sense of urgency to beat their rival. So I would 100% think it would be a better game. I'm not sure that Ohio State would beat them, but the thing that always lingers is that it's very, very hard to beat the same team twice within the same season. So I think it would be close, and I would take Ohio State. Being a fan, being realistic, I think Michigan right now is better coached than them, and they are better prepared. But I think the game would be great, though.
Let's go to my Michigan fan, George. If that song's playing, so help me God, we're...
No, not playing. I kind of turned it off or ran out. But, so it's been 1,124 days since Ohio State has beaten Michigan. And as Thomas said, it's tough to beat a team twice in a year. So I don't want that national championship because I want this day clock to keep ticking. I'm going to be honest. I don't want to see Ohio State, Michigan again. But it would be, it'll be the most televised, watched ever a football event if there is an Ohio State Michigan national championship. It'll be absolutely insane. The first one was actually on my birthday every year. My birthday is November 24th, so we always celebrate it. So I will definitely have to try to drink more beers than I did on my birthday if they do play. So, but yeah, go blue, man.
All right, Barth, what do you got with that? With OSU Michigan?
I think it'd be a close. What was the final score last time? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
For OSU Michigan?
Not close.
Not close at all. Michigan by 20.
I think it was a 21-point game. Yeah.
So I'll put it at a 20. still think they win by almost 3 touchdowns. I mean, Michigan's much better than Ohio State this year. I mean, they've proven it. So I don't really think it'd be a great game. That's just me hating on Ohio State. I don't like Michigan either, but I really hate Ohio State. So I can't say they're anywhere close. I'm just waiting for Steve to comment because I know it's coming.
I was going to say, Barth, we just became best friends. Steve, what do you got? Fire back.
We're saying Ohio State, Michigan in the Big Ten are playing in the national championship right now. Illinois or Purdue's playing that. Will they make any bowl games? I don't know, not even paying attention. No, I think it will be a very good game. I think it'll be close. Just the amount of time to prepare, that they're all hanging out out in California, getting ready for the game and all that stuff. I still think Michigan pulls it out, but I think it's not like the game in November. And George, look at it this way: the game's going to be on prime time. It's no 12:30 BS kick. So you'll have all day to prepare. That's at least a couple of cases of beer for you. Sure, Coach Barth will join you, drink some Busch Lights. Because he won't. There's nothing else. No other beer will touch his lips, so it'll have to be Busch Light. But he'll probably be joining you on the Michigan bandwagon.
Absolutely, I'd join him in a heartbeat.
And by the way, real quick, guys, the score was 45-23. If you guys were still kind of looking it up or Googling, it was 45-23.
We already said it was a 20-point. We got it.
45-23.
Yo, okay. Yeah, Bob, what do you got?
I think it'll be a better game. I still think Michigan will win this one. Maybe Ohio State will keep it at 14 this time. I mean, I just don't see what's going to be the big difference. The last couple of years, I thought, Ohio State learned from the year before coming into this game this year. They still haven't learned, they need to be physical. And I just think they're holding Stroud back. There's some reason they're not letting him run a little bit more. I have no reason why they're not letting him run and get out. I think that's just the difference in the offense this year. They're protecting him a little bit more. Maybe he's protecting himself because he doesn't want to get hurt and stuff like that. But I just think it'll be a closer game. I still think it'll be about a 14-point game.
All right, Fiddy, what do you got?
I'm gonna say it has to be better because if that's a national championship game and it's a 21-point loss, it'll look really bad on Ohio State. But I do think it'll be a huge tune-in, by people watching it, the alumni and all that. I think it'll be enormous, probably rival the Super Bowl, if not surpass the Super Bowl if it's Michigan, Ohio State. I would still say Michigan's probably a 2-touchdown favorite in that. And, hey, who knows? Maybe Ryan Day gets fired. Jim Tressel's now retired, so maybe Jim Tressel will go back to Ohio State. And Urban Meyer's a free agent. Maybe he'll go be his OC.
I was just going to start that. I was just going to start that rumor, right? Like if it's a blowout, Ohio State lets Ryan Day go. A certain Brandon Lawless around, right? Like let's put the role of Jim Tressel. He learned his football in Berea, Ohio. He's retired in February. I think it just makes sense, right? One more go around with Coach Tressel on the headset.
I actually just heard Tressel just moved to Berea. If you have
Oh, the conspiracy theory Falcon strikes again. Johnny with the off-the-wall stuff. But you know what? I want to weigh in on this one, too. I just can't see this game happening. For one, with the two teams that they're playing. With Georgia, like I said, Georgia, I think beats them. But if it would to come down to this, like you guys said, this is going to be that would be the most televised national championship, and it would be a huge money grab for the NCAA. But I feel like if that happens, there's going to be those conspiracy theorists out there that are like, "Oh, the NCAA is fixed," blah blah blah. Now that's why this is happening. So I just don't see it. And Steve, yep, you got a question. What do we got, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's important to just a point of clarification. The NCAA actually does not get the money from the college football playoff, and so it's not the NCAA money grab. That's why all this is interesting with this 12-team playoff and everything. The NCAA makes like 98% or whatever off March Madness. The college football playoff is essentially its own entity. And the NCAA can't figure out a way to get that money. And then so it's the college football playoff making the money, the bowl games making the money, and then the university is making the money. And so it would be huge, obviously, because the farther two Big Ten teams in a championship game, they get paid more each round they go, and then it's split amongst the Big Ten. So even Illinois and Purdue benefit from Ohio State and Michigan being good at football. But it is just an important point of clarification that the NCAA is not making millions off this. It's everybody else, really. And partially that's why the NCAA is jacked about it. They're missing out. It's money.
I get it. I'm just saying, I know there's those conspiracy theorists out there that are just going to be running their mouths about everything.
Hey, if I recall, Steve, I think Illinois played Michigan the closest this year. So we can't be throwing
Great. But did you get a reward for that? What games you guys play in?
I'm just saying they played them better than Ohio State did.
And then they got to go to the Motor City Bowl or something like that?
Wow.
There's only a chicken scratch in the W column or the L column is the only thing at the end of the day. There's no reward for feeling good about yourself.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
You know what, Coach Barth? A famous guy named Jeff Del Torrio used to say, "Did you win or did you lose? Because nobody cares if you lost or how close you were. They only care if you won."
Absolutely. You play to win the game.
Yeah.
All right, we're not going to get much further if we keep that going, but I got one more question for everybody, and I think this is a good question for everyone. Which non-playoff team was most deserving of being in the playoff? So this could be a 2-loss team, a 1-loss team. Which non-playoff team is most deserving? Drew, let's start with you, Mclaughlin.
I think it was pretty cut and dry this year. Tennessee lost at the end. Alabama had those 2 losses. USC lost as well. I guess if you had to pick one of those schools, I really would like to see Tennessee get in there. I think they kind of had a magical year. They had 2 good wins there. I know they shit the bed at the end, but I think they were playing with a little bit of house money. If they played the underdog role, I think they would have made some noise. So I'd take Tennessee. First time being in it as well. So, yeah, Tennessee.
All right, Bob, what do you got?
I would have to say Tennessee, too. I think near the end there, they got a couple guys hurt. I think their quarterback was hurt last couple of games there. That kind of hurt them. Yep. And I think if he stays healthy, I think that's a different Tennessee team. And I think they get in over Alabama and maybe even beat Georgia in that game.
All right, Johnny, what do you got?
I'm actually going to go kind of off the rails here. A 4-loss team. I actually would have picked Utah because Utah was the only team to beat USC twice, and they throttled USC in one of those games. And USC beat everybody else that was pretty good in the country. So even though they had 2 bad losses, Utah, they had 2 really, really good wins out of there. So I'm going to go with Utah. And if I had to pick a 3-loss team, I'm going to go UCF because I know they're going to make some noise in the Big 12, and a 2-loss team, I'd probably go with Tennessee.
All right. Wow. That's George. What do you got?
Yeah, I think it's Alabama. They lost 2 games, and it was by a combined 4 points. 4 points. One of them was 1 point. Another one was 3. So it's Alabama, no doubt. And I was kind of really hoping they got in over Ohio State. I won't lie to you.
Everybody was. Barth, what do you got?
It's got to be Illinois or Purdue, right?
Yeah, there it is.
All the talk about Illinois and Purdue in this podcast, it's got to be.
They played Michigan the closest.
If Hooker didn't tear his ACL, I'd say Tennessee, but with him tearing his ACL, I don't know if Tennessee would be able to hang in there nearly as enough. So I think it would have to be Alabama. As much as I hate to say that, I think it would have to be them.
Yeah. Tomba, what do you got?
Yeah, there are a lot of teams. I was impressed with USC, but then like Fiddy said, Utah beating them impressed me a lot. But I think overall, Bama is a team that has the talent and the coaching that should be in there that is not.
Okay, Steve, what do you got?
I would agree with Drew Barth. I think if Hendon Hooker stays healthy, I'd put Tennessee in, but without, I think you got to go with Alabama. To Georgia's point, they lost like 4 points, 2 games. But also, I'd make a plug for the Yellow Jackets. That, you know, we only lost to Mount Union by 4 points on a Hail Mary that made Sports Center. They ended up making the national championship game, and we played them the closest. So, according to some logic on this podcast, we should have been in the college football Division III playoff, and we got cheated. And that is on the NCAA, but that's a whole other podcast or something that I can rant about. But yeah, so if BW can't get in the playoff, even though we played Mount Union the closest, I would say Alabama over Tennessee, just because Hendon Hooker's injury.
And you know that loss to Mount Union really probably pissed me and Tomba off because we're John Carroll guys, so that didn't make us very happy.
We just go back to Steve. No, I think he said I agree with Drew Barth. I think that's the first time he's ever said that.
I would say in the past hour that we've been talking, I'm pretty sure that's the first I've heard that is Steve agreeing with Barth. But that's, well, you know, I mean, I want to take my shots, Drew, with Purdue and Illinois, but I'm not going to because I know all that hate's coming right back at me for being a Mountaineer fan and them disappointing me, just like Purdue probably disappoints you every year. And, you know, it's with this
Steve,
one.
Steve, I heard Baldwin Wallace is going to play the PAC champion next year, Carnegie Mellon.
We are? Since when?
That's what I heard. I heard you're going to schedule it.
It wouldn't be a game. It would not be a game. There's 2 teams in the OSU that missed out that could have made the championship. So I agree with George that the Heights probably should have got in and made some noise, and we could have made some noise. But instead, it didn't work out because of a 4-second Hail Mary. That was just painful. Yeah, and we can edit out the fact that I said I agree with Drew, right? Can that be just cut out?
Yeah.
Production.
I'll do some editing work on that one. We'll see if we can get that out there for you.
And there's 2 Drews in here. He disagreed with me instead of the other one.
Yeah. It's the one that called himself a coach on Zoom, but is not coaching. I don't quite understand that. He's in fundraising and philanthropy, but he's still going by Coach Barth. I don't get that.
But you know what? Fiddy's been calling him coach all show long. Like, that's just...
Once you're a coach, you're always a coach, even when you retire.
All right, guys. That's all the questions I have for this college football preview show. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun with, poking fun at everybody. But I love all the information. I love all you guys for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This was our college football playoff preview show. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week. The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.